All right, let's go ahead and continue. We go to land use. I'm sorry, we're held in committee, aren't we? So Land Use Planning Committee, Mr. Catanzarite, bill number 17-25.
Mr. Schetzel, we have Bill number 1725, a code book amendment adding property value guarantee on solar projects. The petitioner is Dan Schetzel.
As a petitioner, I'd like to go ahead and hold that in committee for one more month.
Okay. Any opposition to that? Doesn't sound like it. We'll go ahead and hold that in committee another month. And then we move on to Bill 3125, special use for a property located at 12525 Anderson Road. The petitioner is the Miller Family Development Company.
So this is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission Director once again. So this special use petition did come before the Land Use Planning Committee last month. As you'll recall, there was a bit of a language barrier with the petitioners. We do have them back in the office. They're on Zoom, and we have an interpreter on the line. So it's not going to be perfect, but hopefully they can respond to the questions that you had at the last meeting. So this is at the corner of Anderson and Bittersweet Road. It was rezoned to office in 2023. Now it actually has a full office building constructed on it. The special use would allow for a massage salon to operate on the property. If the special use is granted per the health department, they would still need to be inspected for compliance with Chapter 113 of the St. Joseph County Code, and the practitioners must provide licenses with the state of Indiana. This is what the property looks like currently. The salon would fill one of the suites, as shown here. This came to you from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation, subject to written commitments, which were proposed by APC staff in consultation with the health department. Those being that massage salons operating hours shall be limited to Sunday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. No person shall open, operate, cause to be operated, and/or perform massages at this location outside of these business hours. And secondly, that no dwelling units, including those that could be considered accessory or incidental to the principal use, are permitted on the property. These written commitments will help to ensure that the use is run in a manner consistent with other permitted office uses, including hair and nail salons, chiropractors, that sort of thing, which in turn will help to ensure that they're not disruptive to neighboring residential uses or will affect the use and value of these neighboring residential uses. Beyond that, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan in that it does target this for infill and redevelopment. So just general offices are consistent with the comprehensive plan. Again, it comes to you favorable, 6-0, but subject to those written commitments. I'm happy to answer any questions I can, but we do also have the petitioners on the Zoom call with an interpreter.
Are there any questions for Mr. Klein?
I'd like to ask Sean a couple of questions. And if you don't know, that's fine.
Yes.
I can ask the petitioner. The entrance to this business, is that right in front there in full visibility of the Bittersweet Anderson Road intersection?
I believe that's correct. I think all of the entrances face into that parking lot, which would be visible from the right-of-way.
Okay. And then the petitioner is the Miller Family Development Company?
Correct. That is the owner of the property. So the representatives of the petitioner that I described earlier, they're more so related to the actual business that would be operating, but we do have a representative of the property owner here as well.
Okay, and then I guess my last question is, so not the petitioner, but the business owner, if they were to cease their massage business, property goes vacant or whatever, what happens to the special use? Does that stay with the property?
It does. It would run with the land. So another individual could come in and start a massage operation, but again, they would have to be re-inspected by the health department and provide licenses at that time.
Does a special use, if it's not being used for a period of time, if it goes dormant, does it expire?
It does not, no.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions, Mr. Rutten. Any other questions for Sean? Mr. Tanner?
Thank you, Mr. Catanzarite. Given that I'm not on the Land Use Planning Committee, I appreciate the opportunity. Sean, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. Given some of the nationwide problematic issues that occur within this particular business tenant type, massage operation, and the connotations that go along with it, and as recent as I think 5 or so years ago, there have been sting operations to crack down on illicit activities and/or human trafficking at businesses that perform massage. Outside of us potentially having hesitations for approval based on those known issues, is this petition outside of any other concerns or norms of Area Plan Commission and the recommendations thereof?
Looking at it strictly from a land use perspective, assuming that this use is operated in full compliance with all other relevant laws, Area Plan does not have a concern with the specific use.
I appreciate you identifying that. I know in talking with the health department, because they're also involved with providing the appropriate certification and permits, that with this particular type of business, not necessarily this tenant or petitioner, but with this type of business, there have been challenges in enforcement and compliance because some of those who are in the dark side of the business that has illicit activities have gotten really good at avoiding the challenges of that compliance and the enforcement thereof. I've worked with them extensively to express those concerns, to talk about the challenges related, the cooperation that they have with the sheriff's department and other levels of the legal process. But that can't be what we're here for today, in my opinion. It is a petition for this use within legal compliance of what's been already forwarded to us from Area Plan Commission. And that's what we're voting on, correct? Or that's what we're making a recommendation on, is specifically that petition for this type of business use, correct?
That's how I would understand it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Klein? Sean, I have a question for you. A couple questions. The 9 AM to 9 PM, does that mirror the county health code on massage establishments?
In consultation with them, they don't have it in their code currently, but that is something that they wanted to consider. And that does kind of, when you look to sort of massage establishments that are kind of known as being legitimate, that kind of mirrors their hours.
So on that, if you could explain to me on the commitment, the first one, number one, could a client arrive at 9 PM and then have a 1-hour massage and then leave at 10? Or are you interpreting that as the client would have to be gone by 9 PM?
I'm interpreting it as they would have to be gone by 9 PM.
Okay. And back to Mr. Rutten's question, is there any ability with us as a body to make an additional written commitment that would not allow the use to run with the land so we could limit it to one particular provider of that service? Can we limit that and say that it would expire at the end of the use of the property for that use for that tenant? Could we make that commitment, or does that go against?
I wouldn't advise it. I don't know, legally it might hold up. For one thing, it would be difficult to keep track of ultimately, but again, you really don't want to view these through the lens of a very specific user. You're just trying to decide if the land use in general is appropriate at that location, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Klein before we move on to the petitioner? Looks like Mr. Miller's here. Danny Miller's here from Miller
I'm
Development.
Dennis Miller, President of Miller Family Development. Our offices are at 806 Green Pine Court, Mishawaka. The massage business per se has gotten to be pretty popular, and this special use ability that we're working on now was established, I believe, when we had massage folks that were trying to get into my offices at, on State Road 23. And the guy was in, it was a sports massage. And I told him, don't use the name massage, call it something else, which the connotation of massage is not what it used to be. And he went in and got his place all fixed up, just couldn't wait any longer, so he moved out. And then we had another, before we even got through the petitioning. And then we had another massage people come right behind it. So it's a very popular item that unfortunately started out with a poor reputation. The things that they do are different than what they used to be. These gals will be doing nails and hair and facials as well. The particular, if you could put that other picture up of the building, they are right next, their unit, that's the wrong side. They're in the back there where that, no, that's not, that's still the same one. Anyway, they're on the other side of the building. I've got 4 units on the picture side, 2 units on the other side. And their unit is actually right next to the industrial zoning building. So it's not well exposed, I would say it'd be the easiest way to put it. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Miller? Then I have one, on your 23, State Road 23 building, which we rezoned a couple of years ago when you put that one up, is the massage establishment still in there? The one you're referring
It
to?
never
Oh,
was.
it never was. The
They
gentleman-
didn't want to wait 3
Okay.
months that it takes to, and these folks have been in for 3 months, not doing anything.
And you vetted them for a tenant, as a tenant, and you're satisfied that they're a good tenant?
As far as I know, yes.
You guys invest a lot of money in your buildings, and I'm certain.
Well, yeah, well, I retired for a while and got back into building, and the building I thought that would cost $1 million was $1.25 million. So I guess I missed a couple years of inflation.
That's all the questions I had. Mr. Schetzel has a question for you.
Yes, I do. First, Mr. Miller, thank you for developing that corner. As long as I've
Finally.
lived in Granger, I wondered why it wasn't developed, and finally, I think 2023, you came to us and we gave you what you needed to get going on that, and you spent the money and got it done, so thank you. I do have a question for the ladies who are going to be running. So if the interpreter could be ready, is that possible for me to ask?
They should be on Zoom. I think.
Yeah, if you want to go back to the Zoom.
This is the interpreter.
Go ahead. Okay. So my
This is the
question,
interpreter speaking, sir. You are welcome to ask the question.
I'm sorry, go ahead? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you tell me your name, please, sir?
My name is Richard. I'm the interpreter.
Richard, you're the interpreter. Okay, Richard, what's your last name?
Yes.
What is your your family name?
It spells OEI.
OEI. All right. Thank you, Richard. My question, Richard, for the young lady who wishes to run this establishment is, in what cities and states has she operated similar businesses? In what?
请问您在哪一个城？请问您在哪一个城市、哪一个州属从事过相似的职业呢
印第安纳，
？Interpreter request clarification。您曾经在印第安纳做过这一种店吗
脚店，绑脚店，
？Yes, Indiana。
Only Indiana?
只在印第安纳州做过吗
是
？Yes。
What cities?
请问是印第安纳的哪一座城市呢
Maryville，
？Maryville。
Only Maryville?
只在 Maryville 做过吗
现在是
？Interpreter request clarification。是吗
对呀、
？Yes。
Only Maryville. Okay, one more question. In Maryville, did you have any situation that we should be aware of with county authorities? Yeah. Did you have any situation we should be aware of with county authorities or the county government? Any difficult situation?
difficult。您在Maryville 郡那边有没有和 Maryville 郡当地的执法部门或者郡政府有一些复杂的一些关系或者一些情况是我们需要在此了解到的吗
没有啊，
？No。
Okay, thank you.
welcome。
非常感谢。
Any other questions for the potential tenant? I have one. Sir, Richard?
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
Is she still is the lady still operating in Maryville currently?
请问您在 Maryville 还有从事这个商店吗
有一个呀，脚店，
？Interpreter will repeat. 现在那个酒店还有营业吗
营业呀，
？Yes, still operating in Maryville.
Could she provide the name of the establishment in Maryville?
您可以告诉我您在 Maryville 的这家店的店名是什么吗
New Spa，
？New Spa.
New Spa? Is that,
是 New Spa 吗
对，
？Yes.
is that spelled N-E-W, new? Is that what we understand? New Spa?
您可否将您的店的名称拼写出来呢
NUSPA，
？It's N-U, N like Nancy, U like unicorn.
N-U. Is that correct? N-U?
Yes.
Okay. And I've been asked to.
Yes, sir.
I've been asked to ask what the address is of New Spa in Maryville.
我被要求询问您 New Spa 的这个完整地址是什么呢？
我给你找一下，
Let me take a look.
Okay.
First Avenue. Got it. Do you want to maybe just ask if it's that for confirmation?
Richard, is she on 81st Street,
81st Avenue?
81st Avenue?
请问是在81街的吗？
对，是1517 W 81街 Avenue US 30 Maryville， 印第安纳46410。
Yes, it's at 1517W 81st Street, Maryville, Indiana 46410.
Thank you so much. Anybody have any other questions for the potential?
非常感谢。
Hearing no other questions, I would entertain a motion on bill number 3125.
Motion to move forward with no recommendation.
We have a motion on the floor to send it forward without a recommendation. Is there a second to the motion?
Yeah, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to send Bill 3125 forward without a recommendation. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We will send Bill 3125 forward without a recommendation and vote on that at our June meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Catanzarite.
That concludes Land Use Planning Committee, held in committee bills.
Thank you, Councilman Catanzarite. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Councilman Tanner.
Mr. President, Bill number 59-24, we received an email from the petitioner since our last meeting asking to withdraw this bill.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We now need to ask the council a favor from Mr. Cotter, our prosecuting attorney. We need to make a motion to a unanimous vote of quorum to suspend council rules to allow Mr. Cotter to make a presentation in somewhat of an emergency situation. He did reach out to us. Many of us spoke to him this weekend. So I'm going to ask the council for a motion and a second to allow Mr. Cotter to present to us.
Mark just stepped out. Does that going to affect anything?
Well, it has to be unanimous, so I guess we have to wait a minute. Does it? Guess we're waiting a moment.
Oh, here he is.
Oh.
Joe.
Oh, Joe, we're back.
It's like, where are
All
we
right.
going?
Mr. Catanzarite, did you hear my explanation?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I move to suspend the rules so we can have a special hearing.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the rules are suspended. Mr. Cotter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ken Cotter, prosecutor, 10th Floor County City Building. On Tuesday, our office met with representatives from a company that will be taking over the duties of Adult Protective Services. Adult Protective Services has been part of a prosecutor's office, bailiwick, for the last 20-plus years. Last year, the legislature allowed it to be opened for other companies to do that work, and the state selected a company out of Boston. We talked with representatives from the state about a month and a half ago, and they were a little bit unsure about that transition, but they set up a meeting with us and that company on Tuesday of this last week. In talking with representatives from that company, it was my hope that they were going to be able to take over on July 1st, or actually June 14th, when our grant runs out. They're not going to be ready to be able to do the work that I think is necessary to keep our elderly safe here in St. Joseph County, starting on either June 14th or July 1st. It doesn't mean they're not going to be ever ready to do that. It's just the timing is not going to be there. That caused a little bit of concern that we would have a number of weeks in which our elderly could be at risk. And so I reached out to many of you, and I appreciate you taking out the time and talking with me about what I am proposing and asking to be able to do. The first is just to explain, this is what's going on with APS. Adult Protective Services, the state has funded $400 and some thousand every year to be able to run that. You funded I've got my numbers here, $243,947 a year. You are the only APS hub in the state of Indiana to do something like that. And because of that, we have been able to function at a higher rate than other areas of the state, not because people didn't care, but because our county decided that that was important enough to supplement the state payments. Now, the state is taking APS away, or I should say, we're no longer going to be involved. That allows or still leaves $116,000 that this county had budgeted, but will not be utilized because the prosecutor's office will no longer be involved and it'll be an outside vendor. Talking with the auditor, that number is higher than we're able to do because of insurance, and John, I'm going to butcher it, because of the way insurance is done and apportioned, you can't take a portion out, is that correct?
We budget the full amount.
I'm sorry?
We count on the full amount.
You guys count on the full amount regardless of whether or not it's utilized. Is that fair to say? Okay, so instead, and that's why I had to redo this, and we met with the auditor, and I think the auditor is in favor of this. There will be $42,074 that will not be used and is available to do a transfer. And what I'm asking is, can we fund 3 workers, because that's who you guys have funded and we have funded for St. Joseph County, keep them for 6 more weeks. That would allow us to be able to do a good, and I call it a stopgap, a good transfer to the new company and the new vendor that will be doing the APS work. And I actually need to put a codicil in that. They're going to do the civil APS work. The criminal part is still under my bailiwick. It's not been funded because that's always been part of APS. We've gotten 6 investigators, we've got a director, and someone who does the financial evaluations, because APS is for those who are self-neglecting, that's civil, who have been neglected by a caretaker, and also somebody who has exploited that person. And the best examples I can think of is somebody is trying to take care of an elderly person, and they are siphoning money away for their own reasons. And we've charged a number of cases that, unfortunately, a lot of times they're going to the casino and spending that money. And we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. That part is still going to be part of my office. That will not go with the new vendor. So the short of it is, I was anticipating talking to you guys next month about what do we do long term. But if I did that, then we're going to have 6 weeks of folks who are not going to have the civil work that is done. That's a self-neglect. Somebody who has lost the capacity to take care of themselves, and APS then finds the resources to be able to help them, whether it's a guardian, which we've done on our own, a family member, which happens most of the time. Family just doesn't know that that person needs that help, or frankly, somebody else who is willing to help them out. I'm asking for 6 weeks for three workers. That cost would be $19,112. I think it's in front of you, Form B. And then also for the telephones and the mileage that they would take. And that's what we have generally been having the grant people pay for. So you guys would be, what I'm asking is the county take the unused perf and FICA and transfer that to wages for 3 of our workers. That comes out to a total of $19,884. The second part is stuff I was going to actually ask for next month, but let's include it all at one time. Joe Dietz is our financial investigator. He is paid partly by you, by this county, and partly by that grant to have his, because we're going to need him full-time, and to have him be paid. It's $15,000 from the grant, so I'd be asking for, with FICA and PERF, $17,828 for that financial investigator. Our financial person who actually consults with Joe for $4,874 that had been paid by the grant. And then we're going to get a lot more work for our advocates because APS had always done that. Now they're going to be coming directly to us for the rest of the year. And so asking for $4,754. Ultimately, with a stopgap and then the 3 full-time folks, it comes out to $47,339. That's more than what is in the FICA and PERF. But I also am asking for a transfer from the prosecutor's office overtime of $5,265, which would then cover everything. So the short of it is, I would be asking for those transfers. I'm not asking for any new money under the Form B. I'm asking for a transfer of funds to be able to pay for those individuals to do 6 weeks, those 3, and then the other ones to do it for the rest of the year. And I'll be glad to answer any questions on that. I'm also making a request on PTO, but I think that's a separate thing. I don't know if I did a well enough explanation. I've said this, I think 6 or 7 times this weekend, and sometimes my head runs like I've already said this stuff.
Chairman Tanner, I believe this would be under your purview, correct? Or no, I'm sorry, this would be Diane,
Be me.
Chairwoman Hess.
Yes.
Chairwoman Hess, take it away, it's
Oh,
your committee.
Okay, well, are there any questions for Mr. Potter? Mr. Tanner?
I do coincidentally have a question, or really more of a statement. Ken, I appreciate you reaching out proactively once you all were able to wrap your heads around the significance of not only the issue, but the challenges of this transition. The one thing that I would comment, not necessarily as it relates to whatever kind of recommendation may come out of this meeting, but as it pertains to if this shows up on our June 10th public hearing is, and I think I'm speaking for everybody up here, we have a general understanding of what the request is, but the dollars and cents that you just read off doesn't necessarily line up with the dollars and cents that we see broken down on these forms. They probably do align somewhere,
Okay.
but I think for the nature of the request, I may speak for everybody that if it's broken down by fund rather than all at once, and we have a net dollar amount, which may be this $47,339 that I see on Form B, but I don't recall ever hearing that specific number be stated by you. Again, it's not necessarily a criticism. It's just the nature of like, I don't think we're looking at the same numbers that are in front of you that are in front of us.
If I actually can address that just so that it can clear up. So looking at the Form B, I had my cheat sheet.
Are you saying B as in boy?
B as in boy, yes. Under Form B, the $31,080, that's for the 3 investigators for the 6 weeks, plus the rest of the full-time investigator for the rest of the year. And I'd broken that down to the 3 investigators for the 6 weeks. Hang on, let me find my other cheat sheet. One investigator, $6,602 for the 6 weeks. Another one, $6,437, and the other one, $6,073. That comes out to $19,112. And then the full-time person, $17,828. So that's where they come out, plus the telephone and the mileage. So that's the investigator portion. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Forget about the telephone and the mileage. That's for the investigator portions. Does that answer that part?
I think those numbers for those individual positions vary from what's in front of us on our Form B.
Okay, I will double check that to make sure that, because, and God bless the auditors, because they worked with us today trying to get these in front of you, because I wasn't aware that we weren't able to utilize the group insurance, and I understand why. And I've learned my lesson that not expecting something would work, as in on Tuesday's thing, I expected that, okay, we can do a good transfer. I should have anticipated this, and that's my fault, and very much my fault. But I will make sure the numbers are, the Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted.
Okay, I think Mr. Schetzel had a question, then Mr. Catan's right, then Mr. Thomas, maybe? Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Schetzel, did you still have a question?
You can go to the next person. My question was answered.
Oh, okay, Mr. Catan's right.
Mr. Cotter, the numbers you're giving are very similar to what we have on our paper, but they're not identical. My guess is, I'm only guessing, I don't want to be guessing, but that's where you can dial this in for us. You're probably also including FICA and PERF in those numbers.
Correct, I am.
Where we see them, on us paper we have in front of us, they're separated. So we're seeing pure salary for the individual positions, and then we're seeing lump sums for FICA and PERF.
Gotcha.
Like, for example, the full-time investigator for the remainder of the year, you quoted us 17,000 and some change.
Yep.
We're seeing $15,000.
It's 15,000 for the wages plus the FICA and PERF comes out to the 18,828.
What's happening, but, and is that what you're saying we're probably seeing?
Probably, yes.
That would probably do it, yeah. Any, Mr. Thomas?
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas?
I'm gonna put the auditor on the seat here, so, no disrespect to you, Mr. Cotter.
Mr. Murphy?
Mr. John,
John?
so how does it look to you, John? It sounds like hieroglyphics to me, but I mean, do you?
I think
what-
it looks, it's like an incremental budget. It doesn't include, I think the three positions on the left, the 5,555, 5,415, 5,110, and then the full-time supplement. This is what was paid out of the grant before, is now being recommended or asked to be paid out of the general fund. So I think that's your 31,080. I don't know if it's exactly that, to Mr. Tanner's point, but I think that's pretty close to that number. Then the Director of Budget and Finance, that's work that the budget controller, Mr. Reisenhuber, does on this grant. That's the 4,100. That's also was paid out of the grant, but now it's not going to be able to be paid out of the grant. That's for the last part of the year. And then also the Director of Victim Witness, that's an additional amount for an employee that was working on this grant that's going to assume additional duties. So it is a budget transfer, which is good. We like budget transfers over additional appropriations. We can make sure the numbers tie out. These aren't the full salaries, just so everybody knows. These aren't, usually in the salary amendment, we try to put the full salaries in there, but this is more of an incremental approach. It's what the grant used to pay, and now it's not going to be able to pay. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Dalton? Can you?
John, are any of these people full-time employees? Besides the stipends, are we getting any new full-time employees in the general fund?
No.
The only reason I bring that up is because that would have a bigger health insurance impact in the future, perhaps not this year, but in the future.
I don't think so, but I could ask Bob or Mr. Cotter about.
Are they new employees? No, they're the same employees we've had.
So none of the investigators coming from the grant to the general fund are full-time.
No, they are full-time, but they had already, you guys had paid the insurance, paid their FICA, paid their PERF. The grant paid their wages. The county paid all of those things.
That's why the health insurance is already covered. That's why you don't see it on here. That's why the FICA and PERF, if I had one correction to make to this, I would probably take the FICA and PERF off of the right side of the form because it's already covered it's already paid for. So you can reduce that cost. So it's really, instead of 47,000, it's more like 41,000.
Oh, better.
Anybody else? Mr. Schetzel?
Yeah, so the statement here at the end, there is no increase in cost for the county since this is a transfer from the 2025 budgeted funds. It's actually going to end up being a surplus to the county. because of what you
It's,
just
it's,
said.
well, we'll just reduce both sides of the budget, so it'll be a budget transfer of about 41,000.
Okay.
So are you
no increase in
willing
what-
to pick up $41,000 from this grant that occurred, that's going away, to keep the program going for 6 weeks? That, I think that's the question.
Any other questions, Mr. Catanzari?
Kind of more of the program specifics. With meeting with the vendor on Tuesday, was there any inclination of hope that they will need or want to hire our existing investigators for continuity of?
Knock on wood, yes. Originally, we were concerned, the state believed that they were going to be at will, the 1099s, I think it is called, that, and I know the employees were like, we can't afford to do that. We need to be able to have insurance. On Tuesday, there was good indication from the new vendor that they are going to be interested in wanting to hire employees from APS because they know the system, they know the individuals, they have good working relationships. For example, one of the best things about exploitation are credit institutions. When they see unusual activity on someone like that, will reach out to APS and say, you might want to take a look at this. So hopefully we will have that same relationship.
Will this keep the, I know you mentioned St. Joseph County, will this keep the funding for all of the hub
No.
positions? No, it will not?
No, so our hub covers St. Joseph County, Elkhart, Marshall, and Kosciuszko. There are 6 investigators who do all of them, 3 in St. Joseph County, and then 1 for each county. I'm not asking you guys to fund the continuation in Elkhart and Kosciuszko and Marshall. That would be hard for me to ask you guys to do that. And frankly, I'm not sure they'd have the authority to do anything in those counties. These employees would be working for the prosecutor, and I do have the authority to get involved in investigations of criminal matters. And you never know if it is the self-neglect, you never know if somebody else is involved, and so that covers these individuals. I would not have that same cover for Elkhart, Kosciuszko, or Marshall County. And by the way, they don't know that they're not going to have coverage until I call them, but I first wanted to talk with you before I talk to anybody else.
Unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. It's going to happen.
Does the vendor have
It's-
experience in this field?
It's my understanding they do, but I know very little about the new vendor.
From what we're reading, they're gonna cost as much as we're paying you guys. As the
I
grants
would be
base, they're
surprised
more.
if it is, no, I'm not going to guess. I don't want to guess.
All right.
Okay, are you fairly confident that this extension will be a stopgap, that they'll be stepped in by the time this funding would stop?
I'm hopeful.
Okay. And again, you're still going to be taking care of the criminal,
Correct, that will not change. It'll shift a little bit, where APS had been doing a lot of that. Now it's going to be my office that is doing that. Now it's also, I've met with the both chiefs of South Bend and Mishawaka and the sheriff. We've talked a little bit about what does this mean. I know they're having to gear up of, okay, we're going to have to get more investigators for these types of crimes. Yeah. Now, the biggest one, I have to admit, the biggest one for criminal acts are going to be exploitation. And that's why, to me, it's imperative that we continue on with our investigator that has been working with APS. Joe Dietz, who's that investigator, does an outstanding job and has a great relationship with the credit institutions and getting the subpoenas, the search warrants, and making sure that those funds are not being abused by other individuals. And when they are, holding them accountable.
thank you. Any other questions for?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I just want to make sure I understand, we took a vote to suspend the rules. Was that to waive the requirement for a first reading? And then tonight, we're going to vote in committee, and then the next council meeting will be the final vote. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, this is
Yes,
serving as the first
that is
reading.
correct.
Yeah, it wasn't on the agenda.
Actually, a lot of these Form B, Form D items don't show up on first reading at the previous public hearing. They come for the first time during our committee meetings.
Okay,
But it wasn't a part of the public advertisement on the agenda for this meeting.
okay, yeah.
It was another one of those, oops, we just found this out thing, which has been happening quite a bit. Any other questions? So we're basically going to motion, no, we're gonna motion to send it favorably, not favorably at this point, or is that what we're doing? Okay, all right. So if there are no further questions, do I have a motion?
Motion to send favorable.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moves to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. There's a second part. No,
Oh, I think that was B, as in boy.
yes.
So now we're in,
Now you're going to look at the Form D. Do you have two of them?
Yes,
One for 21,000 and the other for 5,000?
yes.
Throw away the 21,000. I'm withdrawing that part. I'll explain why in a second.
Okay.
So it is a 5,000 and change, and frankly, what that is the PTO that is by law owed to those employees who have been working with APS. So when they're terminated, when they're done, they have whatever PTO is not used, they get paid for that, and it comes out to 5,000 and change. The other one, frankly, is what I'll be coming to you later on. I'll probably be taking that out of pretrial diversion fund and not asking for general fund. It's going to be a severance for those individuals. They've worked so hard for our community and for so many years. I think I won't use my word, I think it's not good, not nice for them to have to lose this job that they have been so passionate for. I wanted to, and I'm going to be asking you, but it won't be now, to allow me to use my pretrial diversion funds to be able to pay them. I guess it's a severance. It would be PTO if they had worked for the full year. But that's the 21,000. The 5,000, they're owed by law. They have to have, nobody's budgeted that because we didn't anticipate that we wouldn't have APS part of our office. And so that needs to be paid someplace, and that would be new money. I'll answer any questions you have on the 5,000 PTO money.
Any questions for Mr. Cotter? Not to hear a motion on the 5,000, or Part D, I guess, the 5,366.
motion to send favorable.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moves to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you for suspending the rules again, and I promise never to do that again.
Never say
Be
never.
careful what you promise, Mr. Cotter.
Fair.
All right, Rules Committee? Mr. Schutzen? Yes, Mr. Tanzarite, yes.
Before we move on,
Yes.
this is for Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
when we considered the prosecutor's bills here a few minutes ago, he wasn't allowed to receive credit for the savings of those employees coming off of health insurance because they were budgeted for the full year.
Right.
So my question kind of goes back to earlier in the evening when we had the supervisor maintenance personnel that we budgeted for health insurance for those two employees. Why do we offer credit for those positions since we don't have two full-time equivalents, but we budgeted for it? Why do we offer that credit back to that department, but on this department we couldn't?
Yeah, right.
Well, we don't, I mean, I guess I didn't pick that up. We don't offer credit back. The real cost of health insurance, if you take the total, we have to fund the health insurance plan, okay? It costs about $22 to $24 million per year. The majority is through employer contributions. So the auditor fills out a form at the end of the year determining what the real cost of health insurance is, and it's more in the neighborhood of $23,000 per year. We've kept the rate low, $18,500, with the anticipation that there would be some positions that are not filled, And so that everybody's chipping, you know, it's just an allocation. It's every department is chipping into the plan. I guess I didn't realize that on Bree's presentation that they were using health insurance, if that's what they did.
That was
If
part of
that's
the
what your,
credit.
if that's what your question was.
Yeah, that was part of the credit we were explaining that we're getting back.
Okay, I didn't pick that up, I guess, you know.
And then where he factored that into his figures, then he realized he couldn't use that because they actually already been budgeted and
Right, we don't do that. We do it for grants though, because they're very specific on what you can do. So we do just budget for grants, their actual employees that work that month. And that's a big, we don't really get that much out of grants, to be quite honest with you. So that's how we do it.
Yeah,
All right.
there was 18.5, there was one health insurance as part of the
credit on that.
For the other build?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay, well, I didn't notice that. I
Yeah, we should.
apologize for that.
We calculate that before we vote on that next month.
Is that the one you voted unfavorably for? Okay.
I motioned without, just for the record.
Yeah, I think it went
said
without,
Oh, I'm sorry, not you, I meant the collective
I
I
group.
think it went without recommendation. right?
It's unfavorable.
Yeah, or in
My-
favor,
my-
oh,
my
that's right,
without
that was the
died.
one that we couldn't get. Yeah, okay.
Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay. No report from the Rules Committee. We are ready for our presentation, vector presentation, Health Department. And
I was ready to call.
looks like this is going to be a team presentation.
When Brett walked. Who's carrying that kid in here by their neck?
And then whacking his head, my goodness.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I believe you got a copy of my PowerPoint earlier. As part of my efforts as the vector coordinator for the county health department, I'm doing everything I can to talk to pretty much anybody who will listen to me about the vector-borne disease situation here in St. Joe County, especially as we start getting into heavy Lyme disease times, as well as time where we start really ramping up mosquito control and testing efforts. I feel like every time I come to one of your meetings, I get lots of questions, which I love answering, but I figured this would be as good a time as any to kind of lay it all out for you and answer any questions you may have. St. Joe County does lead the state of Indiana in Lyme disease cases by a not insignificant amount. We also have been pacing the state in West Nile virus incidents within the mosquito population over the past couple of years. And so we're working diligently to try and do what we can on both of those fronts. And like I said, I'm here to answer any questions you may have about anything that you read and just kind of get you guys all on the up and up with what's going on here in St. Joe County. My PowerPoint slides are like, I know we've already been here for a while now. I don't know that you want to go through a whole gigantic PowerPoint. Be more than happy to, or if you want to just pepper around, that works for me as well.
Well, Brett, can I ask a question? Why does St. Joe County have this prevalence? Is it something due to being the northern part of the state and population? What are the criteria there?
Yep, I somewhat jokingly but somewhat seriously blame Michigan for our Lyme disease problem. Specifically, the deer and small mammals coming down the St. Joe River corridor. The parks that we have along that northern corridor are just chock full of ticks that have Lyme disease. I believe you saw in there, about 47% of the ticks, adult black-legged ticks tested in St. Joe County have come back positive for Lyme disease, and most of those that have been submitted for testing have come from that area. So our rates are a lot similar to that of Michigan and very dissimilar to the rest of Indiana. We're also starting to see ticks not normally associated with our area starting to come over this way, coming up from southern Indiana, then over from Illinois and the Chicago area. We're just kind of at that confluence of everything. And with our habitats, I would say urban sprawl, but all of our subdivisions that are in all these wooded areas up in the northern part of the county. The Lyme disease ticks, black-legged ticks, they really love oak leaves. and oak habitats, of which we do have plenty of once we're kind of bounded within the bypass.
Brett, vector-borne, to the layman, may otherwise be considered insect-borne
Yeah.
disease.
Yeah, more or less.
So we typically think of it as tick or mosquito, but are there any other particular species that you pay close attention to?
So ticks and mosquitoes dominate what I do. Those are our biggest problems, but that does not stop me from getting all sorts of weird and wonderful requests. I dealt with 2 bed bug identifications earlier today. Right now, bed bugs are kind of in a weird legal space. There's not really any hard enforcement I can do on them because the bed bugs themselves don't transmit disease. I mean, there's a whole lot of mental health implications, secondary infections, that sort of thing. But since they aren't actually transmitting a pathogen, the enforcement's a little non-existent, to be frank. We also deal with cockroaches from time to time. Rats actually have a special section within the Indiana Code. There's a lot of laws, a lot of health department laws. There are may laws. The rat laws are actually shall laws. Like I shall go out and deal with rats if we get a complaint. And then I even got a random raccoon roundworm situation earlier this year where a kid had ingested raccoon roundworm and it traveled up their nervous system. So was not expecting that. That was a fun side quest that I had to go on there for a little bit.
And your focus, over the last 2 years, I've gotten to know the work that you do a little bit better, but for the general public and perhaps some of the newer members of the council, I kind of break it down between 3 areas. It's reacting to things that occur, and coming up with a game plan for it. It's proactively doing things like mitigating the standing water, the stagnant water, and spraying activities that promote the populations, right? And then it's education. Did I nail that? Is there a broader brush that you'd like to paint that with?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Ticks are not something that I can go out and treat like I can for mosquitoes. It's not going to work out well for me or anybody if I go into St. Pat's and kill all the spiders, because ticks are arachnids, and the only thing available is broad basic caricides. Can't be doing that. So that education aspect of it is very important on that sort of thing. Trying to get people to be proactive and wearing the repellent and that sort of thing. On the mosquito side of things, going out there and trying to eliminate those standing water breeding sites or treating those before they become flying adults, trying to educate people on, again, wearing the repellent, trying to keep mosquitoes away from their own property, and as well as surveilling for those populations. So that way, if they are testing positive, I can intervene and knock them back before it bridges over and starts affecting the human population in our county.
Brent? No pun intended. So is there a pattern historically we can look at since data's been collected? Is there an uptick? I don't mean that, but is there an increase in tick populations or tick infections?
Yeah, can you hit the next
Historically?
slide? There we go. We have a pretty steady increase. There's a jump there in 2021. I believe CDC had a new case definition. But things have been going up very steadily, somewhat dramatically. And the thing is, this is only the reported cases. Lyme disease is one of those things, it's got that classic bullseye rash, right? And so if somebody has that and they go to prompt care or Minute Clinic, whatever, those physicians are probably just going to give them a doxycycline prescription and move on. It's a $10 prescription. There's no really any side effects. They don't have to do this big expensive test, and the patient gets better, which is great, except for then it doesn't become an actual recorded statistic, which means that Lyme is severely underreported, maybe upwards of 1 out of 10 cases reported. And from 2018 to 2019 through 2023, we had at least 124 confirmed cases. So we're probably significantly higher than that.
So doxycycline will reverse tick-borne diseases?
Doxycycline is the main antibiotic prescribed for Lyme disease.
For Lyme disease, okay. And then, same thing with, on the mosquito front. Are we seeing increases in population or?
We are,
swarms or-
we are seeing yes and no. We are seeing a lot of high numbers of mosquitoes, but we've also started, we started our larviciding program in earnest last year. And in the areas where we did our larviciding program, we had a dramatic decrease in numbers. And so I don't have a great baseline for you because I'm starting to treat as I'm finding. And so I don't really have that comparison like I did. But for those of you who didn't hear me say this earlier this year or late last year, once we started larviciding, we had a 30% reduction in total mosquitoes throughout the county. But in the area where we did special catch basin treatments, trying to reduce the West Nile virus mosquitoes in a specific area by treating the roadside catch basins, we saw a 70% reduction in that area. And so we're expanding that to try and keep those at bay before we even get to the flying mosquito part.
Is there any value in, I know you're the vector specialist director with the county, but partnering with the city of South Bend and Mishawaka for catch basins, I mean, is that something that their people in their Department of Sewers could treat? Or does it require licensing or expertise like what you have?
It does not necessarily require licensing and expertise for the products that I use. I mean, it does require the expertise. They can be expensive every time you throw one in there, depending on labor costs that you want to factor in. It could be upwards of $6 a pop as you're throwing them in, which is why I'm being very deliberate about where I'm checking up, making sure that those basins are actually holding water and actually breeding and that sort of thing. So that way I'm not just flaming money with every toss. But I have contacted City of South Bend before. It's been a minute, and I need to contact them out again. They provided me some of their catch basin maps and some of their infrastructure, different catch basins were built differently throughout the years, and so some of them hold water more than others. And so depending on where you're at in the city, you're more prone to actually have that standing water. I need to work with the city of Mishawaka some more. Where their public works are actually is one of the main mosquito breeding areas. It's quite wet over there off of Division Street. And so trying to work with them to get those populations reduced as well. I've also started working with the city of Walkerton, or the town of Walkerton. I spent some time down there last year trying to help get them situated and working on getting their program back up and running as well.
Excellent. Do you have any good news for us from treating things, on the national level, or are we finding in your research it's going to help us eradicate? Do we want to eradicate ticks?
I mean, I don't want any.
They scare me to death.
Yeah, they're awful. I mean,
And with Notre Dame's, mosquito programs, are there any hope out there that we're working toward eradication of any of these?
I mean, there's a lot of things going on to try and improve the public health space, especially when it comes to mosquito-borne and just other vector-borne diseases. Notre Dame has been really focusing on spatial repellents recently. So think of like the thermal cell that you can get and put out on your patio, and that's kind of what they're focusing on. It's a lot malaria-based, but the concepts are the same. There is the drive for tick research and tick everything is on the rise because people are starting to realize how much of an impact it can have, and we're seeing these gigantic increases in numbers, and just more and more people are wanting this. They're wanting to not have this problem because, I mean, Lyme is awful. I was talking with somebody who, her brother was a professional pianist. He played piano for, I don't know which symphony. Developed Lyme disease and developed arthritis in his hand so bad he had to stop. It's awful. And that happens way more frequently than anybody really realizes. And it's we're getting that ball rolling in the right direction to more and more new things coming out that we can maybe work towards reducing those populations. I just listened to a talk earlier this year at a conference where they were discussing localized tick reduction in around the home, and there's the potential for some things coming up in the future.
And I guess the other one you always talk about is It usually shows up later in the season as equine encephalitis.
Yep.
Is that, where's that come from? I forgot.
So we are one of, I'm trying to remember if it's 11 or
More?
13 counties in Indiana that have this triple E threat. The mosquitoes that transmit that live in very specific habitat. Culicida millinura only breeds in acidic waters. Cocotidia perturbans only breeds in cattails. And so the environments where you have those together are cattail bogs, such as Leidic Bog. There's also one down there just across the county line, like up against the county line down in Walkerton, as well as our cattail marshy boggy areas such as up by Spicer Lake north of New Carlisle. So we do have those populations. I do probably more triple E surveillance than any other county in Indiana, trying to make sure that we're on top of it if we do find something. Typically, that will flare, if it does flare up, it'll be in starting late August, and then September is pretty brutal, and then top of October.
Thank you. Will you email that, your slide presentation to us?
I believe you,
it?
you can have that.
We got an email.
Okay, I didn't see it, that's maybe my fault that I didn't see it. I'll make sure. Thank you. Thank you, Brent.
Brett, I just have a comment. I grew up in the 1960s and on the south side, and I was in the woods all the time. I never saw a tick. Our cat never had a tick. Our animals that we had never had a tick. My neighbor boy had a tick, and we all just couldn't believe it, that tick was here. But I've been kind of thinking about this, why we have so many now. Back then, we never had deer around here, never had deer. Now there's deer, I see them in my subdivision, and I live on the south side. Do you think that's a correlation? And with a comment to that, you know what the best animal is to eat ticks?
So, great questions on both sides. Yes, deer population is definitely influencing this. It's deer also is small mammals, chipmunks, white-footed mice, that sort of thing, are actually great dispersers of the tick as well. But I would venture to say that the increase in both of those, the small mammals and the deer, are definitely helping fuel that. Regarding your comment about animals that eat ticks, you've probably heard the wives' tale about possums eating ticks. That is just flat out wrong. That is not a thing at all. That came from one bad study that was done an amount of years ago. I've read it. I have no idea how it made it into publication. Basically, the researchers put some ticks on the possums, and they walked away, and they came back, and they couldn't find them. Like, well, they must have eaten them, and then extrapolated out all those numbers.
I've seen videos of them eating ticks off a deer.
They'll eat pretty much anything. There was a researcher from the state of Illinois a couple years ago that went and wanted to ground truth this and collected roadkill and euthanized from animal control possums throughout the state of Illinois and dissected them, and they found more bottle caps than they found ticks within the stomach contents of the possums.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Thank you.
I just have one question. As a resident thinking of standing water, I've had people tell me, oh, spray WD-40 in it and it will sit in there and then no mosquitoes will come. I personally have not sprayed WD-40 in my water.
I would not
However,
do that.
Is there something that residents can see, you know, like, so I have standing water in my back often, just in the alleyway of the way it goes, something that you could do to try to...
Yeah, there are some mosquito larval protections that you can buy at pretty much any box store. I've seen the mosquito dunks, the little donut-shaped ones. I've seen those at Walmart or Lowe's or whatever. Mosquito bits, it's kind of like in a Parmesan shaker. It's got corn cob bits on it. I use both of those things in slightly different dispersal methods, but yes, it's the same active ingredient. There's also a product by Clark Mosquito Control you can get off of Amazon called Natular. It's a little bitty effervescent tablet like an Alka-Seltzer. You can put it in bird baths, rain barrels, that sort of thing. It's actually certified organic. You put that in there and it's good for 60 days. So there are things that residents can do around the home for water that they can't get rid of. There is water they can get rid of, like bird baths or cleaning out gutters. You know, that's the easiest and cheapest way of doing it, is just getting rid of that water. But for the bigger areas that you can't necessarily do on your own, give me a call.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much, sir.
Yep.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on, monthly discussion on the county budget. Anything related to the current county budget anyone like to discuss? Mr. Dalton?
I was gonna do the abatements, is that the next?
Yep. You want to go ahead and, I did want to, before you do that, I did want to mention, we will begin our budget discussions for the 2026 budget, July 14th. The dates will be July the 14th, 16th, 28th, and 29th. Yep. All right.
The bottle caps in the possum, I didn't expect tonight. That was a new one for me. Abatements, there's 10 abatements that would come before the council for a compliance review. I'll remind you the process. Each of the company sends in a CF1 form that says we did or we didn't do what we promised we would do, and then you have an opportunity to review those. And typically, we go to the public hearing in a couple weeks, and you take a voice vote on whether you want the president to sign those CF1s saying that they're in significant or substantial compliance. We have never actually taken an abatement away. We've had a couple companies that we've pushed back on because they didn't file their paperwork correctly, but we've never actually taken one away, and the process is a little bit more protracted than just our opinions. If you wanted to take an abatement away, they have a right to a second public hearing to present their evidence, and then they can also appeal to a court of law if they disagree with you after that is over. So we've not gone down that road. I've recommended, after reviewing all the documentation, which was in the thousands of pages, that you approve all 10 of the compliance reports. There's 12 pieces of paper here. 2 of them are units that did not have assessed value yet to report, so the abatements won't start until we talk about this in a year. I can field questions. You already have the report. We can go over it at the public hearing. Otherwise, I'm done.
Any questions from Mr.
Mark.
Dalton? Mr. Catan's right.
With Echo Plastics, I see your notation on there. We've agreed in the past not to get
Yeah,
their
Echo.
detailed weight information.
Echo, when they presented to you, asked for a waiver on that request. They complained that they were small enough that that would target specific people. And you granted that waiver.
Any other questions?
And there's another one similar to that. AM General does not give us their full affirmative action plan. They give us the cover pages, and they report that the Federal Government Trade Secrets Act will not allow them to give us their affirmative action plan.
All right. Seeing no other questions, Mr. Dalton, do we need a motion to accept? Do we need a motion to approve? What do we need
I would
here?
say we put a pin in it and we bring it back up at the public hearing, and then you do a voice vote at the public hearing to authorize the president to sign each of the CF1 forms.
Very good. All right, thank you, sir. Any unfinished business? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we are adjourned.